Hey, welcome to the Cinema Sidetrack podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Braydon.
And welcome to the podcast where it's all right to get lost in the weeds as long as it has to do with movies. How you doing, Braydon?
I am so happy that we're doing this.
Oh, I'm so excited. You know, we're both film professionals. We both have jobs in the industry, and we used to have a job together where we would be able to get together every week and talk about movies, but we don't have that job together anymore. So we had to do something to funnel our passion, you know?
Yeah, we need an excuse to argue about movies and capture that.
Most definitely. So in this podcast, we're going to be talking about new releases every week. But in addition to that, we're going to go on little side tracks that have to do with the new releases, whether it be the new releases, the movie news, and some games every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun and not your typical movie news, movie review podcast.
Because God knows there's enough of those out there.
Yeah. Well, very cool. And every now and again, we're going to be hopping into and just like have special episodes, maybe with some guests and some other fun things that we haven't figured out yet. But it'll definitely be a journey, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and some challenges that people can kind of play along with us. Some episodes coming up in the future where we get to kind of put together our own story, maybe write our own movies, act like we're the heads of our own studio and whatnot.
That's right.
It's great that we're starting now because we're really getting into the mix of Oscar season right now. So this episode is going to be mostly dedicated to the Oscar nominations and who we think should win and who we think will win. But first, we have our movie of the week. What was our new release this week that we wanted to focus on?
This week we saw Nickel Boys, which had a lot of award season buzz, and I finally got around to seeing, because it had been out for about a week before I got a chance to see it. But I loved this movie. What did you think, Andy? Overall thoughts?
I'm along the same track as you. I thought it was a pretty big swing, especially for a first time narrative feature filmmaker,
which I didn't know until after I saw it.
Yeah, most definitely. It's such a deft, such an assured hand that Ramel Ross approaches this film with. Have you seen his previous film, his documentary, Hale County This Evening? I think it was nominated for, or maybe actually won the best documentary feature at the Oscars a few years back.
Huh, I didn't watch that one.
Apparently he has a similar approach to that he does in Nickel Boys, just in the way that he's really experimental with the form within the doc space there, very similarly to where he's definitely experimental with the narrative form, especially in the way that he uses the camera throughout Nickel Boys. What was your reaction to that? Did you know about this first person POV camera perspective going into it? Were you familiar with the film or anything that it was based upon going into it?
Yeah, so I don't think I saw a trailer. I might have maybe before a movie, 3 months ago, but I don't really remember anything about it. But I did know that it was first person POV, and I went in not really sure what to think of that, because there's movies like Hardcore Henry and these other kind of gimmicky first person things that are cool concepts, but the execution can kind of be but I feel like the way this movie handles it is incredibly unique, and I've honestly never really seen a movie like this before with the first person POV, but this isn't really a spoiler, but it switches POV between people sometimes. And I thought that was a really interesting choice. And then sometimes we're not even in first person. Sometimes we switch to third person. It's really cool.
Yeah. The device of the camera perspective, it really ingrains this central relationship that you see between the two main characters. We get that first perspective switch when the other Nickel boy is introduced. When Turner enters the story is when we first get that perspective switch, and it immediately engages you within the relationship between these two characters, because it's a definite switch up, and you get to see our central character's face for the first time, which is interesting, being so far into the film at that point.
Yeah, because I mean, at that point, we're probably nearing the end of the first act, I want to say, because there's like a good 15-20 minutes of setup, which I thought was really great, by the way, with like a lot of the he's like this kind of innocent young man that's growing up in this really gross segregation of the 1960s in Florida, and you don't really get many he wants to be involved in like a lot of like the civil rights stuff, and like he's really interested in like Dr. Martin Luther King and stuff like that. But then there's a really kind of like a oh shit moment whenever he gets himself into a sticky situation, which I don't really want to spoil a lot of that, but he gets himself into a sticky situation and ends up getting put into this nickel academy. And that's like a really big tone shift in the movie.
The buildup before that real tone shift, like you said, the majority of the first act is a bit of a montage stitching together moments of Elwood's life through his first person perspective from as a baby to a teenager to a very young adult, and that just really allows you to empathize with the character without much heavy lifting with actual plot points and stuff like that. It really is. I've heard Ramel Ross be described as like a humanist filmmaker, and I don't have much of a grasp of what that looks like. But just being able to be dropped into this young man's life and being able to live out the first decade and a half of his life like that was really interesting. And it was something I kind of had to shake myself into. I really wasn't used to that first person perspective.
Yeah, it really makes sure that the audience knows what it's like to be in the shoes of like a young black man in the height of segregation in the 1960s, which is why I think they made the choice to shoot it the way they did. But it definitely like made you feel uncomfortable in ways that you learn from,
Right. And even though I was pretty immersed even though I was really immersed through this experience throughout the majority of the film, coming out of it, I was really mostly thinking about the technical aspects. I don't know if it was a matter of just my headspace going into it, not completely emotionally attaching to the story, but coming out of it, I was really pondering on the technical aspects of tackling this through the lens of this creative choice, how it would affect shooting, especially from an actor's perspective, and directing young actors to act directly opposite of a camera lens rather than like another seasoned pro or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen any of the behind the scenes, but I'd really like to know how they shot a lot of the first person stuff. And yeah, I bet it would be like a hurdle to have to leap over to try to perform with a camera lens instead of an actual. I mean, I'm sure they're seeing the face still, but the camera is much more intimate and in your face than it would be if you were just shooting a traditional shoot, like a traditional style shoot. From your perspective, did that affect any of the performances negatively for you? Just the idea of it's actually the opposite. I thought it kind of enhanced the performances because the actors were kind of performing to you instead of witnessing their performance, So I thought that was really cool, and it kind of immersed me more in that aspect. However, I found it. I think this kind of was another smart thing, but don't think it quite paid off. Was I found it a little difficult to emotionally attach myself to characters like Elwood and Turner because we're spending so much time as them, like in this first person, that I don't know what it is psychologically with me that like I can't get myself to like emotionally attach myself when it's shot in that way. And like this, I think they're trying to fixed that a little bit with like switching in between them like throughout, but that kind of created even more of a disconnect for me for some reason.
I was reading some criticism regarding the first person POV, and something that really stood out to me was that we connect and we empathize to characters on film by seeing their eyes, not seeing through their eyes. So there's definitely an adjustment period that you really have to tackle when diving into this, especially because the subject matter and the historical context surrounding it is so dense as well. But as for the performances, I agree. I don't think they lacked, despite what I assume was an obstacle, having to act opposite a camera rather than another actor, unless they used like some sort of like Interatron or something like that. Like I know documentarians in the past, like Errol Morris, would use like an Interatron device to where you could see the person that you're communicating with while looking at the lens. And I wonder if they had something like a tool like that they were using.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that definitely makes sense though with what you're talking about with like the whole psychology of you connect more with the performance if you're like experiencing it through their eyes. Like that's how you like absorb their performance, and you don't really get that a lot of the time with Elwood and Turner. So that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. I think that's why I connected most with the Hattie character, was because she's looking directly into your eyes while she's performing the entire time, and she really has like this loving grandmother vibe.
And I feel like in the lead up to me actually seeing this film, before the Oscar nominations were even announced, a lot of the buzz that I heard of it was surrounding Aunjanue Ellis Taylor in that grandma role as well. Did she actually end up picking up that nomination for supporting actress, or was that one of the snubs?
No, I think that was definitely one of the snubs, because Nickel Boys only got nominated for I think it got nominated for writing, and it got nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, adapted screenplay. And then did this encourage you to dig further into the historical context surrounding the film? Did it encourage you to maybe pick up the book, The Nickel Boys, that it's based upon?
I hadn't dug into any of that stuff after, not because of disinterest, but just because like life stuff haven't really had time. But I definitely would want to, because
it seems like heavy material too. I mean, just sitting in this world for 2 hours and 20 minutes, once you realize the weight of the depravity and the injustice within the actual institution itself, I can't imagine spending the whole week with it as you're going through the novel throughout your week.
Yeah, and just the fact that I think isn't this based on like an actual school that existed?
Right. It's a real school that actually existed up until 2011, I believe, and it wasn't even closed due to the horrors that happened within the walls. It was closed due to supposed budgetary cutbacks or something of that nature. So yeah, it's horrific.
Yeah. Before we move on here, what did you also think of, without spoiling anything? This is not a spoiler. What did you think of the reveal at the end? I'm not going to say what it was, but just the fact that there was a reveal at the end. What did you think?
See, I wanted to touch on this, but I didn't know how much that we were going to spoil.
We don't have to go into details, but we can just say that there is a reveal of sorts at the end.
Let me say this. I am a huge Daveed Diggs fan. Are you aware of him within the film space, within the theater space?
I'm mostly just aware of his name. I don't think I've seen much of his work.
Okay.
I know he was in Hamilton, but that's I'm looking at his IMDb thing right now.
Yeah.
I've heard him in Soul and stuff, but I've not dug into him as an actor.
Well, in addition to his work in Hamilton, he was, I believe, a writer and producer on this wonderful film called Blind Spotting a few years back that I was just crazy about. But he's also a member of the hip hop group Clippings, and I have recognized and loved his voice for a matter of years now, probably a half decade. So when I saw his hair and when I heard his voice, I immediately knew that he was too big to not be a large role in this movie. I just needed to figure out what exactly that role was, how he fit in, because obviously things didn't sit right when he was immediately introduced. So I was kind of piecing it together along the way, and I got there before the film got there, oddly enough. But emotionally, I still felt like it worked, especially seeing the transformation without saying much, the transformation of that character in the most literal of ways.
Yeah, for sure. Did it being like, it's like, oh, like, okay, I know it's Daveed Diggs now. Did that take you out of it at all?
See, the perspective in which we see Daveed Diggs' character slightly different from how we experience young Elwood and young Turner.
Right.
But still, we still have that locked perspective, and we don't get to recognize his face along the way. So, like I said, I was piecing it together, but it didn't really take away from my enjoyment. Most of it was really just like, oh, damn, Daveed Diggs is in this movie. All right, cool.
Uh-huh.
What's he gonna do now? What do you think about Nickel Boy's chances at those two Oscars before we move into movie news and before we really dig into the Oscar race in just a bit? Where do you think Nickel Boy stands?
Man, as much as I'd love to see it win something, I don't think it's going to win either of the two categories it's nominated for. Because I think there's a clear adapted winner. And I just don't know. I mean, it'll be a surprise if it wins Best Picture for sure. But unfortunately, I don't see it winning anything.
Right. I feel like in terms of looking at it as a race, it really just doesn't have the precursors. Like, it hasn't won the awards leading up to this event. And like you said, when it comes to adapted screenplay, Amelia Perez has been sweeping up a lot of awards. Conclave is in there, which won the award at the Golden Globes.
We'll get into it later, but I definitely think that's the clear leader right now, Conclave.
Yeah, most definitely. So other than Nickel Boys, what else have you been watching the past couple of weeks? We haven't really talked about our theater trips the last couple of weeks.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I did see The Substance last weekend.
Was that your first time seeing The Substance?
Yeah, first time seeing. I didn't see it when it was in theaters. I don't remember why.
Oh shit! So you watched it at home, or is it a re-release now?
No, I watched it at home. Loved it. The ending, I go back and forth on just thinking about it. I don't know.
Does it just drag on a bit too much for you? Because it is like
No, it's not like the pacing or anything. It's just like how it fits within the movie is a little weird to me. Just like
I was over the moon for The Substance. I think that was my number 2 or my number 3 movie of the year last year. I was just I just loved how visually bold and how lacking of any subtext whatsoever it was. It was just all up front. It was so much fun.
And then like a lot of, I've been catching up on a lot of the Oscar movies. I watched Conclave. That's fine. Saw The Brutalist. Quite good. I liked it a lot, despite a lot of the AI criticisms, which I think we'll get a little deeper into once we get to the Oscar portion of this episode.
Definitely.
And then yesterday I finally watched Amelia Perez to see what all the buzz was about.
I'm excited to hear what you think about that one. The internet hates it. Everyone I've seen that's not part of like a critic circle or something like that hates it, and then
dude, I think I'm joining the haters club. I don't think this movie's for me.
We can break it down a bit later on, but yeah, it's well, you're already out on most musicals except for La La Land and a couple other few, right?
Well, yeah, I thought, I was blown away by Wicked. I thought Wicked was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I'm surprised by musicals a lot, but it's just like this is the first musical I've seen with no good music in it.
Most definitely. There's a lot of that talk sing situation that
hate it
that Lin-Manuel is really big with. Like I thought it was all over the place, but I actually thought it was really visually interesting too.
I think it was shot beautifully.
Granted, I was pretty under the influence when I watched Emilia Perez for the first and only time. But I was howling at some of the choices. The transgender song that you sent me. It is a bold choice. The choices when it comes to the plotting are just absurd. Like peak melodrama. You have a cartel leader that wants to change sexes and then have their full on Jesus moment. You know what I was just floored, but I definitely didn't hate it just because like its boldness. My jaw was on the floor throughout most of it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I didn't hate it as much as I was rolling my eyes and distracted by just the terrible music. I just don't think any of it was good. And I think that took the enjoyment of the movie for me. It cut it in like in half. I thought the concept was super interesting. I thought it could have been a really cool, just like straight up, like weird, zany crime drama thing, but they just didn't go that route, and that ruined it for me.
I totally understand. Where you've been catching up with the Oscar movies over the past couple weeks, I've kind of went the other direction. I saw Wolfman the other day.
Oh yeah,
and I was very disappointed to say the least. I'm a big fan of Leigh Whannell, going back to when he was writing and starring in Saw, and I'm a big fan of Upgrade. Did you catch that a handful of years back about the guy that becomes half AI robot thing and goes on a revenge mission?
About it. I never saw it though.
Oh, it's badass. I really like Upgrade. I liked Invisible Man a lot a couple years back.
I loved Invisible Man.
Oh yeah, and I feel like he has such a almost like a Fincher-esque flair when it comes to his approach to camera work. Like, and I feel like when it comes to Wolfman, it retained a lot of that technical flair in a couple of the set pieces. Like there's a really cool car crash scene, and the way the camera captures that is neat. And then some really interesting like almost point of view switches while we go through the Wolfman transformation throughout the film. But man, it was just so heavy-handed when it comes to the metaphor. It was a big generational trauma metaphor, passed down from father to father to daughter, and it was the most heavy-handed way to approach it. The dialogue was just so on the nose, like you were with Emilia Perez. I was just rolling my eyes in the theater the whole way through.
Dang.
And then the protagonist, the main dude played by Christopher Abbott, he would straight up describe his emotions and intentions point blank to other characters throughout the movie. It's like it didn't trust the audience at all. Like
man,
it was very disappointing. And then I saw Nosferatu, which I'm a huge fan of Dracula adaptations. I've seen a lot of the Universal films, the Hammer films, and I rewatched Coppola's Dracula from the early 90s a month or so back. And a friend I went with said that this was just terribly, terribly slow, and she was completely out on it. But I was just so lost in the world that he created, the production design, the specificity of performances. I mean, Eggers' worlds always seem so authentic and well researched, which is really a perfect segue to our movie news segment. Robert Eggers has been popping up in a lot of industry rags lately. What was he saying in regards to contemporary film?
So it looks like Robert Eggers has officially said that he has no interest at all in making contemporary films, saying, quote, "The idea of having to photograph a car makes me ill." So that's great. Really cool.
So he's not gonna be doing any Honda commercials or anything like that.
Yeah, he's not going to be doing anything that is after like the 18th century or something like that. But it looks like, obviously we know that everything he's done ever has been a historical drama of some kind, or historical thriller, or something like that. And he did talk about how he indicated that if he were to explore modern times at all, if in the off chance he would ever do that, he would only go as far as the 1950s. But he said he'd prefer periods before World War II for their imaginative possibilities, which, I don't know if I agree with all that.
I feel like he's also mentioned in a past interview that he has a sci-fi story somewhere within him, but he just doesn't have the resources yet, or he's not there when it comes to the development of the story. I don't remember what the holdup is, but I do remember an interview over the Nosferatu press circuit where he did say that he has a somewhat futuristic sci-fi movie somewhere within him,
which I would love to see, because I know I'm in the small minority here, but I would love to see him branch out and do something other than a bleak historical drama again. Because like his next two movies that have already been announced, he has an upcoming project that was just announced a week or so ago. It's called Werewolf, which is set in like 13th century England, and it's like a werewolf story. And he's also set to write and direct a sequel to Labyrinth. So that tells you a lot about what his plans are going forward directing.
Yeah, and a lot of people seem to be up in arms about the Labyrinth news. A lot of people have a lot of strong attachment to that IP. I'm a big puppet guy, and I'm all right with anybody tackling Labyrinth, but Robert Eggers isn't just anybody. He's Robert Eggers, so I'm sure that the production design on that is going to be peak. But yeah, I'd be interested to see him in a different sandbox as well. We were talking about this a couple weeks back, but we're not as hot on Eggers as a few of the other modern horror auteurs out there. I'm a big fan of The Witch. I really, really like The Lighthouse. I'm not a big fan of what's the name of his Viking movie?
Northman.
I'm not a big fan of the Northman, actually. Just wasn't my cup of tea.
That's the only Eggers movie I have not seen.
I mean, it's worth a try. It may give you a bit of what you're looking for, because it is a bit of an expansion of his tool set. There are larger action set pieces and whatnot, like stuff that you don't see him visit in a lot of his other movies. But regardless, yeah, I'd be interested to see what a Robert Eggers movie set in the 1950s even looks like. I can't imagine it.
I think he would do great at doing something like pretty, like maybe a little offbeat and quirky. Like I'm thinking, I don't know why my mind immediately goes to Ari Aster doing something like A Beau is Afraid or something like that, or even like a Midsummer vibe movie. I think Eggers would do great at like taking something that, is in this contemporary time period, and tonally maybe it's a little bit different than what he's done in the past, but it still has like his edge in like the storytelling. And like, I do think that he is able to tell a really cool, compelling story, still being in his, his style, just in a different sandbox. want to see that really bad. I just don't think, based on these comments, I don't think we're going to get that, unfortunately. But it would be cool. Maybe someone can give him a big enough check to do that.
Most definitely. But I mean, like, staying in like the horror sphere, one of your heroes, David F. Sandberg, actually has has his new film coming out as well, and the new trailer for it just dropped for Until Dawn. Are you familiar with this at all?
I'm not familiar with the game. I've heard of the game, never played it, and don't really know anything about it. All I knew was that David F. Sandberg, who, if anybody who knows me knows, I love David F. Sandberg, mostly because he's so open about how he got to where he was for filmmakers, and just his story about how he just directed a short that went really big on YouTube, and that gave him a feature. That's so cool. But anyway, I had only heard that he was directing this. I didn't really know anything about it until I saw this trailer. I had almost forgot about it, and then I saw this trailer, and I was like, "Holy cow, this looks awesome!" What were your thoughts on the trailer?
It looks so cool, does it? I mean, like so I have no connection at all to the video game or video game series or whatever it's based upon. But the premise of the movie, it seems to be, well, it's super high concept, right up my alley. The idea of a group of people having to survive what seem to be like different nights from various genres.
Yeah, and like you can't
movies.
Really predict what's going to be happening the next night, and like you have to survive all 13 nights or whatever in order to escape. Like, that's super cool.
Right. It reminds me of kind of like a different pitch on. Have you seen Cabin in the Woods from a handful of years back?
I saw it like probably 10 years ago.
Yeah. So maybe a bit of a different pitch on that, where it's kind of compartmentalizing these different horror genres, but rather than it being spread out like various sequences that intermingle throughout the movie, this almost seems sectioned, almost not exactly like anthology style, but kind of within that same vein.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised at how like genuinely like terrifying and gory it looks. Like a lot. It looks like there was also a lot of like practical effects with like the makeup, with like a lot of these weird like creatures and stuff throughout, like these people in masks and like these weird undead looking freaks. I thought that was really cool. And one thing that I did love was something about the sound design of that hourglass turning, and like the clicks scratches an itch in my brain. I loved it so much.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It seemed, like I said, the premise in and of itself already has me in the theaters. I just really like super high concept stuff like that. But yeah, and just seeing what David F. Sandberg does with the material is going to be really interesting as well. It's a bit of a return to form for him. He's been doing the Shazam movies for probably 8 years now.
Yeah, since about I think the first Shazam came out in 2019. I think they started shooting it in like 2017, 2018.
Yes, so he's been stuck in Shazam land for
a good
for a
8
while.
years or so.
So who knows? Hopefully a bit of a return to form. I really like Lights Out, the movie that's based upon the short that you were speaking, broke him into the industry. And I love the short and the feature. Oh, most definitely. And then his Annabelle movie I really enjoy as well. So
the best one of all of them.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what he does next. What other trailers were released this week?
Speaking of trailers, we have a new Superman TV spot. The trailer came out probably at this point, it's probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then a new TV spot with some new footage just dropped on Instagram and all of the socials this week.
And people are losing their fucking minds over.
Oh my! People are losing their minds over this stupid shot. Which, okay, so obviously we have like this new footage of Lex Luthor. Cool. He comes out of this like, this ship thing. I think it's a ship. Wearing some cool sunglasses. Cool, whatever, right? And then there's a shot of Superman flying around this big like crater mountain thing, and he like flies around it really fast. Then we get this cool close up wide angle shot of him flying. And people do not like this shot at all.
So when you first saw this this TV spot, did you anticipate this amount of backlash to that one single isolated shot? You anticipated that?
Absolute. Oh yeah, dude.
Well,
people, there's a whole cacophony of people online right now who, no matter what comes out from the Superman movie, they're ready to hate on it. Which,
so, the Snyder Bros,
the Snyder Bros, and there's also people who just like, they don't think James Gunn should be doing a Superman thing, and they just hate DC in general too. Like, there's people like that.
See, I just don't get it. The backlash, the surprise, people making accusations that David Cornsweet's face was digitally altered and stuff like that. Like, what I don't understand is that those wide angle lenses were apparent from the first trailer being released 3 weeks ago. I believe I even commented about it to you. I was like, oh yeah, the wide angle lens sweeping around Superman as he punches out the glass. Really interesting look for a Superman movie. I mean, it's known that these types of lenses were being used for this movie since we saw pictures of the rigs of them shooting in Cleveland. Like, I just don't understand.
Well, yeah. Somebody posted a thread at James Gunn saying, looks dope, a great camera angle, Superman flying, except there's something wrong with his face that looks a little off. I know there's plenty of time to refine the CG. And he responded and said, there's absolutely no CG in his face. People's faces can look different when you put a wide angle lens up close. In the background is actually a plate from Svalbard, and it's 100% real, as is David, who plays Superman. So that's just, I mean, maybe there's something weird with, like, because obviously there's probably some artificial motion blur and stuff like that. But From what it seems like, this is essentially, aside from the background and stuff, like Superman himself, that's an in-camera effect. Like that, there's no, they're not altering his face. They're not doing all of that with CG. I'm sure there's some CG with, like, obviously, like the cape ruffling and stuff like that. Because James Gunn has said, like, most of, like, a lot of the cape in a lot of these movies is hard to deal with on set. So you just do it in post. But everyone's freaking out about how weird his face looks and how stupid the CG is. That's not CG. That's just what his face looks like. So I think it's a silly thing to gripe about.
Right, most definitely. And what I don't understand is going down these threads, you'll see people post shots of Will Poulter from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with the same wide angle lens Snorri cam setup of one of his flight sequences. So it's a shot that James Gunn has had in his tool bag for a matter of years now. And I think the premise behind the wide angle lens idea for this use, at least, is that you really get to see that landscape around the person that's flying. You really get a reference point to the speed that they're moving at, which I think, like, it accomplishes that. Yeah, wide angle lenses make people's face look a little weird, but what do you want to shoot Superman with a different lens than you shoot the plate footage with? That'll look even worse,
Yeah, I do agree. And I don't know how obviously, like, haters gonna hate, and this is kind of par for the course when you deal with IP that people tend to hate, which segues perfectly into this next story of IPs people currently are tending to hate, which I am not one of those. But it looks like Daisy Ridley Star Wars movie finally has some traction. It's got a writer, Andy. What do we know about this?
Does it really have traction, Braydon? This movie has been announced and delayed multiple times, and it has just been taken off of the 2026 released calendar. I mean, it has a new writer, but it's had 6 other writers before this.
Listen, I used to have a Star Wars podcast. I am one of the biggest Star Wars fans, Disney defenders. I love all the sequel movies. But lately, Lucasfilm's kind of been pissing me off. They can't seem to get their shit together on any front, like especially when it comes to theatrical feature releases. They haven't figured out how to get a movie on the big screen in 6 years. I don't know why they're so scared to release anything that isn't either Mandalorian related or part of the main Star Wars saga, because there was a story like 2 months ago saying that, like, oh, it looks like who was it that they said that was on board to do episodes 10 through 12?
Was this Taika Waititi's series, or was that a different one?
No, that was a different one.
There've been, like I said, there have been a half a dozen people attached to this franchise that they've just dropped. Or was it James Mangold?
So there was an announcement. I think it was more of a rumor that possibly Simon Kinberg, who was who was involved in creating like Star Wars Rebels with Dave Filoni, and was involved with a lot of the like animated stuff, that he was in talks to make a new episode 10, 11, and 12 that would take place after the Rise of Skywalker and continue the Skywalker saga, which right now sounds fun, but I don't think it's the time. It's hasn't even been 10 years since the last trilogy ended, and I don't know how I feel about like there not being a time for that, for us to be nostalgic for the sequels. There hasn't quite been enough time for that yet.
Right.
But now they're trying to get traction going for this Daisy Ridley movie, which was announced in 2022, I think. And it was supposed to come out, I think, last year or maybe this year. I don't remember the exact date. And now it's kind of just like, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like, what am I supposed to believe? Because every time you announce something, 3 months later, it's like, oh, actually, never mind, that didn't work out.
Well, you're saying that there hasn't been enough time for people to get nostalgic over the sequel trilogy. Hasn't even been enough time for people to straight up like the sequel trilogy in a lot of instances. You know what I mean? Like I know that you enjoyed Rise of Skywalker a good amount, but the sequel trilogy still definitely has a bad name, has a definite stink on it after after that movie. And the Disney Plus shows haven't done a whole lot in getting people back on board. And from what reports are saying, the future of this production really rests on the shoulder of the success of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that's coming out. So
yeah, I do think there are a lot more people than you would think that are actually, they're either moderate or pro sequel trilogy and like a lot of the new Disney stuff. There are a lot more people than you would think, but there's definitely a loud group of people who actively hate and dislike the sequel trilogy, which, fine. If it's not for you, it's not for you, whatever. It was for me.
Right. And for me, The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie, period. So
agreed. 100% agreed.
Oh, hell yeah.
There we go. It's the deepest Star Wars movie for sure, in my opinion. We'll do that on Star Wars Last Jedi talk. But yeah, I don't know what it's going to take to get anything. You're talking about the Mandalorian Grogu thing. Is that, I know it's in production right now, but like, is that going to get released? Are people going to even be on board for it? I don't know. There was some positive reception to the Skeleton Crew show that just got released. Like, they just finished getting released a couple weeks ago. I love that show.
Right, and Sean Levy has that project lined up, and with reports of Ryan Gosling being attracted to star as well. So there's definitely still steam in the Star Wars ship.
They're trying to get some momentum. I just don't know if people are quite on board yet, and they gotta start making some big moves and making some big announcements in order for people to even care. Buy a ticket to go see a Star Wars movie, because right now it's not looking great for Lucasfilm, unfortunately.
Right. I don't know if I'm on board for any new trilogy or any new Star Wars sequel, but I am on board for for a Scary Movie reboot. Did you hear about this?
I heard about this. What's going on here?
Okay, so the Scary Movie franchise. One of my favorites as a kid. I had Scary Movie 3 on repeat ad nauseum in the house. It looks like it's coming back with a theatrical release, nonetheless. And the Wayans brothers are back involved. It looks like Marlon and Sean and Keenan Ivory Wayans are all going to be on board writing and producing, and it'll be distributed by Paramount in partnership with Miramax. So
dang, we're taking a trip back to 2006.
Yeah, it looks like we are back, boy. Oh, do you have positive memories associated with the Scary Movie franchise? I don't know if I'm the only one, or if I'm if I'm at the edge of the age limit, I guess, for it.
Oh no, I definitely. I mean, everyone. I mean, I don't know many people who don't quote the "take 'em strong hand" and stuff like that. Definitely, like the height of my childhood was the height of like these stupid parody movies that Scary Movie kind of started. Because I think the first one is like originally a parody of Scream, right? Which is kind of weird because Scream's a parody of just like cliche horror tropes, which is really funny.
Right.
So I definitely have some fond memories, staying up really late and watching the Scary Movie movies.
Right. And by like probably 2008, 2010, these parody movies really got a bad name. And it wasn't because the Wayans brothers, they were already off of that.
It was because of movie 43.
It was something. I mean, we had Disaster Movie, we had Epic Movie, and since then, parody movies really haven't been mainstream. But I'm excited to see what they do with. I assume they'll be spoofing like A24 style, like elevated horror. That's
I would love
that's my
that.
instinct, at least.
I would love that. Get some I'm sure there's going to be like some Hereditary jokes and some. Yeah, spoofing a lot of like the Ari Aster stuff, I'm sure, and spoofing like the a lot of the Conjuring and Insidious stuff. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good one. I don't think it's gonna win any Oscars though, unfortunately.
Really? You're not thinking like at least best supporting?
I don't think any of the Wayans brothers are gonna come out on top with the best supporting actor nod or anything like that.
Well, speaking of Oscars, those nominations were just released last week. And man, were they something. In my opinion, I think this is probably the least remarkable year for movies for the Oscars, like for awards season. I don't know about you, but I think last year was just banger after banger.
Oh, it was a strong. I was looking back at my 2023 letterboxed, and I had, I think, like 10 5-star ratings near the top of my list, and I went back for the 2024 letterbox, and I think I have like 3, something like that.
Well, yeah, because you had movies in there like Oppenheimer, great. Barbie, great. Holdovers, great. American Fiction, great. Poor Things, great. Past Lives, great. Maestro, pretty good. Killers of the Flower Moon, pretty good. Like
not even
banger after
mentioning
banger after banger.
Yeah, not even mentioning like foreign pictures like Anatomy of a Fall, which came and just dominated the Oscar circuits for a few months too.
Yeah, for sure. And this year, I found the nominees to be incredibly predictable, which, it's neither here nor there. But I was surprised at the lack of challengers.
Man, Challengers was my number one movie of last year. Out of all the new releases I've seen.
Funnily enough, we saw that one together.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we?
We did.
Okay, so Challengers is a banger, and it didn't even get a nomination for best score, which it came out on top at the Golden Globes, didn't it?
It won the Golden Globe.
It won the Golden Globe for best score in a comedy or musical.
Yeah, that was crazy that it didn't even get anything.
But other than that, not a whole lot of snubs. We mentioned the snub in the supporting actress category in relation to Nickel Boys, but beyond that, I mean, like Best Picture, a lot of people were predicting A Real Pain. I really enjoyed A Real Pain. It was near the top of my list last year. I really connected emotionally with it.
Another snub for me for Best Picture was Sing Sing. I thought for sure it was going to get nominated.
Well, Sing Sing was being flagged as a potential front runner as far back as like last March or something like that. But
because it made its festival run like shortly after the Oscars last year, and I remember there being so much buzz for like, oh my god, Coleman Domingo, Best Actor lock right now.
And I'd argue that Coleman Domingo and Ray Fiennes are, for my money, they're still the best two performances of the year, despite maybe flashier performances from Adrian Brody and Timothy Chalamet. But yeah, Sing Sing didn't make it in Best Picture. I feel like A24 really, really fumbled the campaign strategy for Sing Sing, because like you said, it was lingering around in people's memory for a few months after the initial festival run and theatrical release in spring and summer of last year. But people have really just cooled off on it, and now they're trying to tackle it with a theatrical re-release. But it really was too little, too late, and it really did not work out.
They didn't make much of a push for it, which is a bummer, because when did it come out originally? Because I think it was probably July.
I'd wager it was even before that. Maybe it could have been. That
it says the release was July 12th. See, I think I saw it sometime in July, and I was like, I'm finally going to be seeing an Oscar movie before it gets nominated for Best Picture, and it didn't. And then and another thing, like, they didn't even, marketing wise, I still have to kind of explain to people what that movie is, because no one's ever heard of it, which is kind of sad too.
And from an advocacy perspective and stuff like that, you feel like there could be a lot of potential there, especially with current culture, just showing the good that's being done with this program and with this movie promoting this program. So I feel like there's a lot of,
and the fact that they used real people who were in this program.
Yeah, and what was his name? Clarence Macklin, the fella acting opposite Coleman Domingo. People were saying that he was a shoo-in in the supporting actor race. He didn't even get nominated as well.
I know. How cool would that have been if he got nominated?
I mean, I believe he represented Sing Sing at the Golden Globes, and it seemed like I don't know. It seems like a no-brainer that the entire campaign, or the potential of the campaign surrounding Sing Sing, and they completely dropped the ball.
Yeah,
but
they did.
But beyond that, I feel, like you said, pretty vanilla slate this year. I'm still yet to see I'm Still Here, the Brazilian film that snuck into Best Picture, and what's her name, Fernanda Torres, the actress that leads that movie. She's apparently a bit of a powerhouse, and it seems that Brazilian representation in international voting bodies for these award shows are really, really showing up for her.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that she won at the Golden Globes too, because I didn't even know anything about I'm Still Here until the Golden Globes.
I'll have to check it out.
I'm gonna have, that's one of the only ones I haven't seen. And what's the other one I have not seen yet? I feel like there's one more. No, it's literally just I'm Still Here, because I just watched Amelia Perez. So
maybe we're not completely qualified to be members of the Academy, but still we have to put ourselves in that mindset, because we have two different challenges. First of all, we have to make our predictions for where we think the Academy is going to be placing their votes. But beyond that, you and me, we have to work together as our own mini Academy. We are the Academy. Two. Yeah, and we have to pick our own winners between the two of us. So do you want to start with our normal predictions first, or do you want to start with
predictions just to get the formalities out of the way, and then we can we can do our own picks.
Okay, let's start with so I haven't seen a lot of the documentaries that were nominated, and I haven't seen any of the shorts that have been nominated. So I
was the same
those.
way. I left those out.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that we're on the same page. So I guess let's start with international feature, and I think this one's a bit of a shoe-in just based upon the precursors that we've had.
Yeah. Go ahead. Who did you have?
I mean, it's Emilia Perez, right?
Yeah, that's who I had too. I had Emilia Perez or maybe Flo.
Did you have a chance to check out Flo? I caught it a couple weeks back.
I didn't get a chance to check it out, but I know the buzz around it is heavy.
It is delightful. It is. That's
what I've heard.
Man, just put it on with the wife, kick back for a couple hours, and just enjoy life, enjoy the pretty images, enjoy the emotions. You'll be there for it.
Now, did you see Wild Robot?
Yeah, I saw Wild Robot.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Did you like it more than Wild Robot?
No. We'll get to that a bit. I guess we can move straight on to animated feature. For me, that's still Wild Robot. I was over the moon for Wild Robot.
My prediction for animated feature is Flow.
Really?
See, I do think it only because a lot of the times the Golden Globes match up with Oscars. Not always. But I think this is a category in which I feel like it'll also win the Oscar.
I see that. I feel like the animated category in the past, a lot of the time, it really toes the line between commerce and art, and I feel the Wild Robot really did that super well. Like it was a beautiful, emotional movie that had incredible artwork and animation throughout, but it also seemed to be somewhat of a commercial smash hit. So
I mean, what was this statistic about Wild Robot and Better Man that like it in its like 50th week or something, it made more than Better Man made in its opening weekend?
Poor Robbie Williams. Oh yeah, sad story. So we're split a bit on animated, so we'll see what happens there. What do you think about let's go to original song? I feel like this one's a bit of a shoe-in as well.
I just put El Mal or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be
one of the Emilia Perez songs,
man. And if we have to break down the Emilia Perez songs, my favorite would probably be the beginning song where she's just rapping, walking through the streets of Mexico City.
Mine would probably be the vaginoplasty one.
Yeah. See, I thought the staging of that one was kind of cool, like the blocking of it and the overhead shots I thought were kind of neat.
That all goes out the window with how incredibly weird and stupid that, and it's not even weird because of what it's talking about. I think it's incredibly like offbeat and doesn't feel right, and I bet they're trying to do that on purpose, but it just doesn't work for me, especially in a musical. It did not work for me.
And the same
most
thing
of the music was like that in there.
And the same thing for El Mal for me as well. Like I just thought the staging and the presentation of that in like the little in movie award show section, I thought it was just kind of awkward. Zoe Saldana crawling on tables. It just didn't really hit for me.
Yeah, honestly, like none of these nominees really. I couldn't tell you what any of these sound like. I don't know.
I like Elton John. I don't know what that song is. I watched that documentary. Yeah. I didn't like it. Yeah. Nonetheless, want to go to a original score? Who do you think the Academy's going to get it for original score?
I think they're going to give it to Brutalist.
Hell yeah! If they don't, I'll be pretty upset. I know. I
will be happy with Conclave as well. I did like Conclave's score a lot.
Pretty minimal. Yeah. I think the same guy did the music for All Quiet on the Western Front. Same filmmaker, Edward Berger, and I like the score for that as well. And I think the score for that one won the Oscar a couple years back, if I'm not mistaken.
It did win. Yep.
Yeah. So if Conclave wins, I won't be surprised by it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, any of these, like I won't be like, oh, that was a huge upset, but I think it's a shoe-in. They're giving it to Brutalist. I mean, it's a great score.
Let's go ahead and go down the line when it comes to the technical awards and just knock those out quickly. Visual effects. I think the Academy is going to go with Dune because they're not awarding them anywhere else, it seems.
I think they're going with Kingdom.
I mean, we've seen the pardon me. We've seen that work before in previous Apes movies, and I know we've seen the work done in Dune before as well, but I still think back to that ink blot planet, the color manipulation when it comes to that whole Harkonnen stadium, and I hope that the Academy is in line because Dune was notably shafted when it comes to the Oscars this year, it seems.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought it was going to get a lot more, especially in like there was no Dune, like no Timothée Chalamet for Dune in leading role, which I think that he was better as Paul Atreides than he was as Bob Dylan. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion. And I think, it would have been cool to see something like costume design. If there's some cool stuff in there.
See, I think
Denis for directing. Like, are you kidding?
Right. Maybe they're doing a Return of the King thing and trying to save it for the third one.
Yeah, maybe.
But you mentioned costumes. I feel like Wicked is going to sweep costumes and hair and makeup.
I had that too. Yep.
And I think Wicked, just because it's a musical, is probably going to take sound. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bohemian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Had Dune. I had what did I have for sound? Yeah, I had Dune for sound.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset with that. I think I may have Dune and sound under my personal picks.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I feel like the Academy is going to go with Dune for sound.
I'd be on board.
I could be wrong. I would definitely be on board with that. And then you mentioned makeup and hairstyling. My pick for the prediction was The Substance.
Really, I think they're going to stay with Wicked for that. I think The Substance.
I could be wrong.
I think The Substance may just be a bit too much for the Academy, but maybe they'll recognize the amount of work that went into that. Because I mean,
just seeing like that the final creature in The Substance, like,
oh, it's incredible.
That's mostly practical. Like, it's pretty crazy. I think just that alone, hopefully will push it over the edge. But I could be wrong. I bet the Academy is going to do some loving on Wicked, especially for a lot of these technical categories. So
that's mainly my prediction, that Wicked is really going to make its bread and butter in the technicals this year. Like, I feel like it's taken production design as well. I don't know if I personally agree with that. I think the production design for Wicked was incredible, but it just wasn't really maybe highlighted the way it could have been with the way it was lit, which I know was a major detractor for a lot of people when watching Wicked.
Yeah. My pick for production design was Nosferatu. Not my pick. My prediction for production design was Nosferatu.
See, I think that may be my pick for production design. We'll get there soon.
I think it is. I think it is my pick as well. But I think if Nosferatu wins anything in here, I think it will win for production design.
I mean, it feels like we mentioned it before, just such a lived in and well-researched world that Eggers creates. It almost seems second nature to him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be going home with. I know he's not the production designer, but he is a production designer. I think that movie is going to be getting that award for sure. What do you think about editing?
Editing is always a tough one to predict with the Academy. I mean, we look back at, what was it, 2019, where they gave it to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, that was weird. Some of the worst editing of the year.
I think I'm going to go with Sean Baker for Anora for this, just because that seems like So the construction of that movie, first of all, a lot of it was shot pretty true to life. Just cameras roaming around strip clubs, cameras chasing after people on a boardwalk, yada yada yada.
Uh-huh.
And to be able to pare that down to a strong edit with such a strong structure that we saw in that final film. I mean, the first act of it is just balls to the wall fun. The second act is almost like a Three Stooges chase movie mixed with a bit of Safdie Brothers, and then the third act is just heart wrenching and stressful. The whole way it's constructed together, I really hope the Academy awards Sean Baker with this, because it looks like he's not going to get much love anywhere else other than maybe screenplay.
Yeah, well, for me, knowing how the Academy votes, I think they're giving it something like Conclave, or something that's just like the editing's like a little unremarkable.
I can see that too.
It'll be something that's like, oh, Conclave, okay, I guess so.
See, I think I was higher on Conclave than you seem to be. I love myself a good like bitchy political thriller, and this was basically that with popes, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was like,
I mean, I definitely liked it. I definitely liked Conclave a lot. I just don't know if it's going to be getting much in terms of Academy recognition. I think it will get adapted screenplay for sure.
That's my pick, or not my pick, but my prediction, my Academy prediction for adapted screenplay.
I think it'll definitely get adapted screenplay. And I think it might, if it does pull anything else, it could be something like editing or something weird and technical like that.
Who do you have the Academy picking for original screenplay? Because I picked Anora with Sean Baker for that category as well. Actually,
I have him going with Jesse Eisenberg with A Real Pain.
Really? I can see that. I thought that was a really, really tight script.
I thought so too, and I thought a lot of the dialogue was like super smart. I'm sure a lot of it was Kieran Culkin doing his thing. But yeah, I thought it was a very well, and like the pacing of the script was really good. And I just overall like thought the movie just went, which is a sign of, I think, of a good script. And I really hope if A Real Pain gets any recognition outside of Kieran Culkin, I think it'll be with the adapted. Not adapted, with original screenplay.
I wouldn't be upset. So you're going A Real Pain. I'm going Anora for original screenplay. And you mentioned Kieran Culkin. I feel like he's almost a shoo-in for supporting actor at this point.
Yeah, he's my prediction for supporting. Yeah.
And then supporting actress, I feel like Zoe Saldana has that locked up as well.
Yes.
Best actress and best actor are hairy categories right now. Still a lot of people fighting away. I've been going back and forth on Demi Moore and Mikey Madison. Mikey Madison has just lost a whole bunch of steam when it comes to the actual Oscar race, and Demi Moore just really shined through with her Golden Globes acceptance speech. I think that that swayed a lot of Oscar voters. I think they're going to give it to her, to Demi Moore.
Yeah, it could be Demi Moore. I wouldn't be surprised. My pick was Fernanda Torres. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to her.
I could totally see that as well. She has a lot of steam right now.
Yeah, a lot of buzz around her. All right, let's hop over to cinematography. Who is your prediction for cinematography?
Oh, this is a tough one, because I genuinely, I wouldn't really be upset with any of these nominations, to be perfectly honest. I think the Academy is going to go with The Brutalist, and I think rightfully so.
Yeah, that was my prediction too. I also, another wild card, could be surprised. It could be Emilia Perez too.
I mean, there's just a lot of steam behind Emilia Perez in general. So if Emilia Perez comes out on top in all 13 of these categories, I would be a bit upset, but I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised.
Yeah, I mean, especially with this category of all the categories, I think this is one that I would kind of be like, okay, that's kind of well deserved, because I thought it was shot super well. The lighting is awesome. Like there's a lot of technical ability behind the camera, obviously, for that movie. Whether I liked it or not is a different story of the actual movie, but I thought it was shot super well. So that could be another wild card there for cinematography. What do we have for actor?
Okay, so actor arguably is the most interesting race this year. I feel like Timothy Chalamet and Adrian Brody have been really going back and forth, and Timothy Chalamet has been campaigning his ass off.
I watched him on SNL on Saturday, and he made a whole bit about never winning an Oscar. He's really campaigning hard.
I don't think it's his year. I think Adrian Brody has the steam behind him. What the deciding factor, I think, maybe is how much traction these obviously planted AI scandals are.
That's what I was going to bring up, because my prediction is Timothy Chalamet, because of a lot of the AI scandals that I think are going to leave a bad taste in some of the Oscar voters' mouths, and it's going to make people lean towards the Timothy route other than or instead of the Adrian Brody route.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd be a bit miffed, because reportedly the same software that was used to doctor and enhance Adrian Brody's performance was also used with the accents in Amelia Perez. Like apparently this is pretty widely used software when it comes to scenarios like this, where you just got to tweak an actor's pitch, tweak an actor's vocal performance in order to get it a bit closer to reality.
And apparently I read some comments from the editor of The Brutalist, and he was saying that it is something like this software. It's essentially expediting the process of what you would actually do manually. Like it's something that you can go in Pro Tools and do manually. It's just something that takes a very long time. It's incredibly time consuming. So they're just using this as a like a path of efficiency in order to get it. Because he said if we were doing it the manual route, we would still be in post-production right now. He says the performance, like a lot of the actor's performance is there. There's just a lot of like intricacies and things that, like with pronunciations or just like, vowel sounds and weird stuff like that you kind of have to tweak in order to make the Hungarian language more authentic.
Yeah. And when it comes to the post process, like the amount of AI tools that are used across the board in all areas of production, all areas of post production right now are overwhelming. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I just used it last week so I wouldn't have to sit here and go frame by frame tracking something on an image for an effect that I was doing for a client, You have an AI tool do AI tracking for you, and you adjust it where it needs to be adjusted.
And it would be one thing if they were using an AI version of Adrian Brody to perform in a lot of these scenes, but that's obviously not what happened. Nor is his like intention or performance being altered. Like it's not like, oh, he didn't say this line, like I didn't like the way he delivered this line, so I want to alter that in AI. That's also not what happened, according to a lot of the comments from director and editor.
Yeah, if you're going to take away this potential accolade because AI was used in the editing process, and you're going to have to take away nearly every accolade from all these, from all of these movies, because I'm sure that there was AI that existed somewhere in the post process in one of the tools for just about all these movies, especially.
Sure. Yeah. Like how many of these do you think like use that software and kind of did the same thing as Brutalist, but it didn't get like, it's not disclosed or it was not covered in any big articles or reveals, It was obviously would be surprised on how many of these movies have probably used that same software.
Yeah. It was obviously planted by an opposing campaign or something
by
of that
Timothy
nature.
Chalamet.
Hell yeah. And you know what? All the power to him. Keep campaigning away, Timothy. So you're going with Timothy. I'm going with Adrian Brody.
For prediction. Yep. What do we got for director though?
I think they're still going with Brady Corbet. I mean,
I agree. Yep. That's who I have.
And then Best Picture, I feel like
I have fucking Amelia Perez. That's what I typed.
Do you? Oh my gosh. I wrote down Amelia Perez or The Brutalist because
yes, and I have or Brutalist in all lowercase.
Because you can't look away from the amount of energy that Amelia Perez has going into this Oscars.
I know. And I see so many articles saying that like it could be a front runner for Best Picture. I'm like, how? The Academy loves this movie.
Well, if you're going with Amelia Perez, I'm going to go with The Brutalist because we're allowed to disagree for this one, and I think we have to come to some sort of consensus for our next one, where we have to pick the Academy of Andy and Braydon's winners. So do you want to jump into it? We may have a couple arguments because we have to decide.
Let's go down the list. Just go back to international, huh?
So international. So we think the Academy is going to choose Amelia Perez. I would choose Flo out of the ones that I've seen.
I also chose Flo. Yep, I'm voting Flo.
Original song. Now, do you have a preference when it comes to original song? Because I actually have a really strong preference in this category.
I don't have a preference, but I do have. I wrote down one that I would vote for just because I want to see it win.
What is that?
And that's Like a Bird from Sing Sing.
Oh, see, I'm a Kneecap boy.
I have not seen Kneecap.
I thought it was just Kneecap was an experience. I felt like I was. First of all, let me gather my thoughts for a second. Kneecap is maybe my favorite music biopic that I've ever seen. And the music in Kneecap is so invigorating and makes you just want to go out and punch some holes in some walls. It really gets me going.
What did it get nominated for?
Didn't it get nominated for Best Original Song? What? Oh,
there's Amelia Perez, 688, Sing Sing, Amelia Perez, and Elton John.
God.
Yeah, there's no write-ins on this category, Andy.
Gosh, what a snub. Okay, we can go with Sing Sing.
Because you don't want any of the other ones to win.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right, well, that ended that conversation.
What a joke.
All right, who we got for score?
For score, I would pick The Brutalist. The Brutalist
I would also pick The Brutalist. Yep.
I keep on humming the melody to that score in my head ever since I saw it.
It's great. It's great.
It's so big. You know what I mean?
I know.
Visual effects, I would pick Dune. Dune is mine.
For sure.
Straight up sound, I'm going Dune.
I'm also going Dune.
Do I have Dune on anything else? I also have Dune with cinematography and production design.
Oof. Okay. Well, I guess we can go to those. My vote for cinematography was for Brutalist.
Oh, see, I can totally see that.
It was a tight race between Dune and Brutalist, but there's personal preference wise, I liked a lot of the shooting style of the Brutalist a little bit more than Dune too.
See, when I just think back to my favorite images of the year, I still think back to March when I was sat in the theater for Dune 2. And Greg Fraser, just a master at his craft. But I could get on board with The Brutalist.
I could also get on board with Dune 2, so we might have to just like roll the dice on this one because it's a tough pick.
I'll flip a coin. Let's say
all right.
Let's say Face is Dune, Tails is Brutalist.
All right.
Tails, we're going Brutalist.
We'll go Brutalist. All right. Who do you have for makeup and hairstyling?
See, this is where I put the substance because I think
same. Yep.
For me, I think it should win just because that was, oh my gosh, such a striking moment in film this year. That last act.
That's something you think about several days after you saw it, for sure. Who do you have for editing?
Editing, I matched that with my prediction. I'm going to Nora for that one.
Yep, I went to Nora as well. Mostly because I thought it used editing incredibly cleverly when it comes to like a lot of the comedic moments.
And the way that it used Yura Borisov's performance to support it throughout, like constantly cutting to reaction shots from him that really built that character. Like until you get to his final scenes with Honora, his character is really built upon the reaction shots that he has to the stuff going on around him. So I feel like it's just really, I mean, I went into it with the original Academy prediction. I think it was just a superbly well edited movie.
Yeah, and I'm also glad that they not only just like cutting, but like a lot of the lack of cutting sometimes that you get in that movie. Especially at the end there, like the whole ending moment. Ugh.
Just making you sit with it.
You just sit in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart to do.
Where are you
who
going
do we
on?
have for
Sorry,
costume? Who you got for costume?
Costumes, I'm going Nosferatu.
Yep, I have Nosferatu as well.
Hey, we're lining up. I think it kind of shows the give me 1 second. Yeah, we're kind of lining up. I think it really shows how samey, how kind of vanilla the whole race is this year almost.
I know. There's no real like, ooh, it could be this one or this one, who knows? Or it could be any of these 5, I'm not sure. Like there's a lot of like, okay. we know who's gonna win this one.
Let's go animated next. You said you were picking Flo over the Wild Robot for...
No, that was for prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Wild Robot for my pick.
Hell yeah, me too. It was just delightful.
I had a fantastic time with that movie.
Let's do screenplays. Let's do adapted first.
Adapted. You know what? I had to do it to him. I went with Sing Sing.
What is Sing Sing adapted from?
There's a book called The Sing Sing Follies by John H. Richardson.
I mean, I feel like that'd be a difficult work to adapt. So I could be there with you. I went Conclave. I just thought that was...
I can see that.
I thought that was a very tight script. I thought, like I said, just perfect political thriller.
Yeah, I mean, I could also... I would be comfortable voting Conclave as well. So I think there's another flip a coin, and we'll see what we have to go with.
But I don't think I have Sing Sing anywhere else on my picks.
I have one more.
You have it for supporting actor?
I have it for actor.
Oh, for actor. Oh, shit. Okay. I'd be willing to go with Sing Sing on this one because I think emotionally,
we'll do Sing Sing.
I think emotionally that hit harder for me.
Okay.
For original screenplay, I went with Honora again on this one. I just thought it was so unique.
Okay. I went with A Real Pain.
Really?
Yeah.
So you matched up your prediction to your pick as well for this one.
Yeah. And it all comes down, like for me, it came down to like I do love Honora. But for me, it really just came down to like the economy of scene, if that makes any sense. Like I think he like Jesse Eisenberg found a way to make every scene build upon itself, and like there's not any fluff, I feel like, in the screenplay for A Real Pain, which I don't, there isn't really anything like that from Honora too, but it was most noticeable for me when watching the movie. Like this script is super tight and super well done when watching A Real Pain.
I get where you're coming from because Honora is definitely looser in its construction and its presentation. I could get on board.
Which doesn't always mean it's a worse screenplay. It just means that
the style.
It had a different style.
No, I could get on board with A Real Pain because the specificity of character shown through the dialogue in that movie was just incredible, and the writing and in that group dinner scene, where we basically learn the whole internal life of Jesse Eisenberg's character through his reflections on Kieran Culkin's character. I thought it was so well done.
Yeah, I also thought there were some really, really genius comedic moments in A Real Pain. Like specifically when they're all like taking pictures with like the statues of the Holocaust survivors. And I thought that was great.
And what's so interesting about A Real Pain is that it doesn't have a super obvious arc for either of these two main characters, but you still feel that sense of finality at the end of it. Like you definitely feel like they've experienced something, and even though you don't see that definite change in their character on screen, you feel the emotionality of the moment still.
Yeah, for sure. So that's why I chose A Real Pain.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
Okay, so production design. I'm between Nosferatu and Dune.
Yeah, production design, I went Dune.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I thought a lot of, like, especially that set where they're doing that final fight with what's his fuck Austin Butler. Thought that was sick.
The sunrise pouring in and through the top of the room. It was all beautiful. It was all really convincing for me.
All right, time for the big ones. What do you got for supporting actress?
Supporting actress, kind of out of left field, but possibly one of the most delightful performances of the year. I'm going with Ariana Grande.
Okay. Yeah, I was between her, surprisingly, and Monica Barbaro from Complete Unknown.
Monica Barbaro, I fell in love with that performance. I thought she was great. She is an enigma. Not only is she supremely talented, but I have a minor crush on her. Just a good performance, but I feel like the way Ariana Grande kind of supported her whole wing of that film, I felt Cynthia Erivo's performance was maybe a bit more serious than it should have been, but Ariana Grande really brought the light and the joy and the comedy. I thought she was such a strong comedic actress.
Yeah, I would be on board with going with her because, you know, I thought that I had never really seen Ariana Grande in like a very big role outside of like Victorious or something like that. But yeah, I thought she was the standout of Wicked for me.
Without question.
Who you got for supporting actor?
For supporting actor, I went kind of for supporting actor, I went kind of out of left field. I went with Yura Borisov for supporting actor. I just
okay.
I thought that was a big discovery for me. I thought it was a wonderful comedic performance, and I thought he brought a lot of emotional depth to the role when it needed it, especially in those closing scenes of Honora.
I would agree with that. That's not what I have, but I do agree with that.
What'd you pencil in for supporting actor?
I went with Jeremy Strong.
Yo, I would not be sad, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I loved his weird little performance in The Apprentice. I thought it was great.
He's such a little creep, isn't he?
I know, and I loved it. I thought he was fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, gosh, it'd be hard to turn away your Borisov because it was such an endearing performance to me. But
I agree with what you're saying too about your Borisov.
But I feel like Jeremy Strong had more to stack up against as well. Of course, it's a true to life character. And also, if you're looking at like performances from like Angels in America and stuff like that, like other strong actors have played this very role in the past, and he cemented his spot in acting history with his performance because it was just madness.
So what's the move? Are we going with Jeremy Strong or are we going with Yuri Borisov?
I'll fold. I'll go with Jeremy Strong. I think he was a strong one.
Andy folds again.
What can you do? What can you do?
All right. A really important category. Actor. Lead actor.
You're going with Coleman Domingo?
I'm going Coleman Domingo.
Man, I would love to, but Ralph Fiennes, like, I feel like
that is not a bad pick.
Well, that movie just in my mind would not work with anybody else in that role. You see the contemplation, you see the puzzle pieces being moved around just from a flicker of his eyes, just a look on his face. He doesn't seem to be doing much, but he's going up against these powerhouses like Stanley Tucci and like John Lithgow, and he's reining in the tone of this picture. Like he was just incredible to me. And I feel like if he actually put effort into campaigning, he could be a front runner right now, but he just doesn't care about it.
Yeah, I can see that. My whole thing with Coleman Domingo is like, he has such a, I don't know what it is about his voice that is so like strong, but at the same time, like his performance in this movie was like so endearing, and he's like, you know, as a viewer, you like grow to trust him. And I thought that like he did a really great job just like being this voice of like leading light for a lot of these guys in this prison.
Just captivating, and such a
captivating,
such a strong arc too, and something that I feel like could be easily overplayed by a lesser actor, especially in I guess more confrontational scenes with Clarence Macklin's character. Those could be overacted, and he could turn into a savior in some moments and a villain in others, and he never tips the scale in either direction.
I think he, like you said, I think he played that perfect balancing act. But I definitely hear your argument for Ralph Fiennes too.
I don't want to fold on this one. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I'm completely okay with folding for Ralph Fiennes because I think he's definitely an underdog in this category who would definitely be deserving of it.
Dope. I got one.
You got one. All right. Who we got for actress?
For actress. See, like I said, the substance other than
You're going with Demi?
No, let me talk about this.
I'm listening.
Other than challengers, the substance was probably my favorite of the year.
Okay.
I thought Demi did a wonderful job, but she was also not carrying that movie. Like that was a two-hander with Margaret Qualley, and
which is why I did not vote for her. I had that exact thought that you just said.
So I'm going with Mikey Madison is what I'm getting at.
Okay, good. Yeah, I voted Mikey too.
All right.
Although I know she's losing traction in like the awards, what do you call it?
The race, the precursors.
Yeah, and she's losing traction in a lot of like the awards sphere. I think that she's gonna end up pulling the Oscar for this one, and I hope she does because that's who. If we were the Academy today, she would win the Oscar.
And the only hope that I have in the case of Demi Moore winning is that Mikey Madison still has 30, 40 years ahead of her where she can keep on cranking out performances like this. I don't know if another role like Honora will come along. Because roles like that just don't come along every day, you know. But
unless Sean Baker writes them.
Right, but she still has more chances in the future. So if she doesn't get it this time, hopefully sometime soon. So we have director and picture left, right?
Director and picture. Here we go. For director, my pick is Sean Baker.
Dang, that is a good. Okay, I'm good with that. I went with Coralie Farge.
I'm also good with that. So okay,
But see, she is so new to the world, and she has so much potential ahead of her. Sean Baker has been toiling away within the Hollywood sandbox for years now, and continuously makes original work.
Yeah.
That
is this his first year that he's been recognized by the Academy?
Yeah, definitely at this level. I mean, his other works were maybe just a bit too grimy. Like
yeah.
What did he Red Rocket and Florida Project, Tangerine.
Was Dafoe nominated for Florida Project?
For supporting?
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. So you know what? As much as I love Coralie Farge, and as much as I love her first feature, Revenge, came out a few years ago, I'd be good with Sean Baker too, because to have such a command on the tone of such a potentially like broad comedy like that could I mean, he did a wonderful job.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. Yeah, Dafoe was nominated for an Oscar for Florida Project. But yeah, this is the first time that Sean Baker has been in the running for director. It's the first time that, you know, he's been in the running. A movie of his has been in running for Best Picture. And I think, you know, if I had to vote today, he would be my pick for director for sure.
I'm going with that then. I'm fine with that, because that aligns with my Best Picture pick.
It aligns with my Best Picture pick.
Whoa, Anora? We're going Anora Best Picture?
Anora. Yeah.
Hell yeah. See, I was going back and forth between The Substance and Anora, and I have such a personal love for The Substance, but even with my personal love of it, it just doesn't seem like an Academy movie. So if I was in the Academy, I don't know if I would vote for The Substance. I think I would want Anora representing Best Picture.
No, yeah, the reason I went with Anora is it was a little bit hard, but the reason I went with Anora is because of the way it made me feel as the credits were rolling in complete silence. What it does to your fucking head while you're like just sitting there stewing in this weird mindset is that's why I love movies.
And not only how it makes you feel coming out of it, but just the diversity of feelings that you have throughout it. Like, you
get a lot of fun, playful stuff, a lot of intense, like thriller type stuff. It has it all.
So you heard it here first, folks. If Braydon Ledbetter and Andy Perez were running the Academy, Best Picture, Anora. Director, Sean Baker. Actor, Ralph Fiennes. Actress, Mikey Madison. Supporting actor, Jeremy Strong. Actress, Ariana Grande. And if you want to know the rest of them, go back and re-listen to the podcast.
Scrub back a little bit. Come on. You weren't writing these down.
Oh, man. You know what? If our winners end up winning, I think it'll be a happy Oscars night. If Amelia Perez ends up winning, we have some explaining to do. Academy.
Then we're never covering the Oscars again.
Oh gosh. I mean, I guess we'll see when it comes Oscar night. But until then, you've been listening to Cinema Sidetrack. I'm Andy Perez.
And I'm Braydon Ledbetter. Hey, Andy, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at Andy Perez Film. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Braydon Ledbetter. That's my first name, last name. I'm gonna do this once and never do it again. BRAYDONLEADBETTER. Got it? Okay, good. You can also find the podcast on Instagram at Cinema Sidetrack. We have a Bluesky. That's fun. That's just cinemasidetrack.bsky.social. And we're also on YouTube, where this episode will be available Audio only for now. We might switch to video. Who knows? But that is just at Cinema Sidetrack. Hey, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you follow. Give us a little review. It really helps the show and lets those platforms know that we do indeed have people listening to us, or else it won't pump out this podcast to other people.
And as always, be on the lookout for next week's episode. We'll see you next time, folks. Have fun watching movies.
Goodbye.